Hi guys, Allison here. Happy Fuse Glass Friday. This week I thought I would do some experimenting with using stencils. So I don't know if this is going to be easy to see because it's clear. So I actually made my own stencil using my Silhouette machine, which is similar to a Cricut machine, like a vinyl cutting machine. I purchased off of a seller on Etsy some digital downloads of these sort of like, I don't know, like witchy sort of celestial images. I'll link the shop and the item that I purchased down below. But I used one of those to make a stencil using the stencil material. I think this might be too thin. I should have maybe gone with a thicker one, but we're gonna experiment and see how it works. So it's, like I said, I don't know if you can see it because it's clear, but this is actually a, if you can see it better on this, on a darker color. It's an hourglass with a sun on one side, a moon on the other side, and then some stars in the middle. So that's what my decal looks like. I'm just gonna do a couple different samples using different techniques with this, and to see, you know, sort of what the results are like. So I cut white glass, that's about the same size, a little bit smaller than the stencil that I made. And the first way that I'm going to use this is with powdered Frit. So I'm going to put my mask on so I don't breathe it in. I'm going to use the color Plum Opal. It's a dark purple. I wanted to have something that really contrasts with the white here so we can really see it once it's fired. If you notice, I'm working on just a sheet of printer paper here. This is there because it's going to collect all of the excess Frit that I don't end up using, and then I can pour it back in my jar, and then I'm not wasting very much of it. So I'm just going to take a spoon. I'm using one of the larger basket sizes than I typically would. I'm going to put it in off to the side, and then I'm just going to start using my spoon to move back and forth and let a little bit fall down through the basket onto my stencil, or through the stencil and onto the glass. I don't think that I want to do a very thick coating, because then I think we're going to lose some of the detail. But we'll see. Like I said, we're just experimenting today, so I haven't done this before. I don't know how it's going to turn out, so we are going to learn together. Just gonna get this side. I think I have an even coating. It's a little hard to tell from this angle, but I'm gonna say that's okay. So now comes the tricky part, is I'm going to grab my stencil, or attempt to, and carefully just move it off to the side. So that turned out pretty good, I think. Moon looks a little weird. I'm just gonna wipe off this excess Frit down here. But that gave a pretty good image of my little stencil that I made. I was a little bit concerned, some of these really small lines, like in the stars, kind of don't really look shaped like stars. I'm not gonna let that bother me. I'm just gonna see what this looks like fired. So I'm gonna move this off to the side, off screen, so that I don't accidentally bump it and ruin all that hard work. And I'm going to take my stencil, tap all the excess powder Frit. So I'm going to try to wipe this off a little bit. And then I'm going to, pour this back into the jar and try to save as much as I can. Okay, so the next material that I'm going to attempt to use is, here we go. The Fuse Master powdered enamel in black. I'm not really sure how I should use this. I don't know, like this is like a different It's powder, but it feels a little bit different than the Frit, so I don't know if it will go through the basket. And I kind of don't want to cross-contaminate my Frit tools with an enamel tool. So I think I'm going to try something different with this one. Let me get a new base here. So I've done this before with mica powder using the clear Perfect Medium by Ranger. This is like a little stamp pad that's clear. And I've actually used stamps where you stamp it on the glass, and then you can use mica powder, and then you can get that image. I'm going to attempt to use this to stamp the stencil and then apply the black enamel on top of that. So let's see how that goes. I'm just going to grab a paintbrush because I think that'll help me with this. Don't know. Oh, let's see if this works. I didn't know if the ink pad would touch the glass because it has this sort of border, but it seems to be. Hoping I didn't move that around. That doesn't appear to have worked very well. Okay, so let's try again. Maybe I will just... Okay, so that's the problem, is whenever I touch it, the stencil kind of comes up a little bit. Oh, maybe if I'm just a little bit more... I have a bit more of a soft touch, maybe that won't happen. I don't know how well this is going to work through these, like, the small sun rays and the outline of the hourglass. Oops. Oh, I think this might be a big mess. Okay, let me see if I can see that. Just give it a try. See if that worked at all. Otherwise, we're going to have to rethink things, huh? So I'm just going to go in with this paintbrush. Okay, so not terrible. I'm seeing the moon. I'm seeing sort of the base. There's the center of the sun. Yeah, it seems like the outline is just maybe too thin because you can't see the rays of the sun either. Okay, so that's good to know that this works with like the larger areas, but not so much the thinner areas. Yeah. So let's take things off the paintbrush. Yeah, that's kind of a big mess, huh? Okay, I do think that if you were using a stencil that was bigger and less detailed, this could potentially work in the future, but for now, I think I'm going to see if I can try something different. So let me get this back in this little bag here as best I can. And I'm actually just going to go wash off this piece of glass and try again, so I'll be right back. All right, so we're back. My clean glass. I'll get the stencil back on there. So what I'm gonna try again with the enamel is I have pre-mixed here. I have that same black enamel that I was just using, just mixed with some of this water-friendly medium. I've used this in a bunch of my videos before. It sort of works like paint. So I'm going to attempt to, with a paintbrush, use this sort of more like a conventional stencil. So I'm just going to grab some of this. I seem to be having some trouble with this, so let's see how it goes. I think also some of my problem is like, because I made this stencil myself, it's probably not like you know, the same quality that like a professional stencil would be, because it's literally the first time I've ever made a stencil using this machine. So like maybe maybe when I have some more practice with that in the future, I'll be able to make stencils that work a little bit better for me for what I want them for. But this actually seems to be working pretty well. Definitely sort of getting the right consistency is a little bit of trial and error, because if it's too thin, it's sort of splotchy, but if it's too thick, it doesn't really spread so well. Doing my very best to not move the stencil at all either, because I don't want to mess up my lines. All right, I think I got everywhere. Now the moment of truth. Oh, not great. Definitely not great. I will say that. You know, it would probably work better if I was using vinyl, like that's sticky on one side, but then you can only use it once. I really wanted to make these that I could use again and again. All right, well, I'm just gonna call that good. We're gonna fire that, see how it fires, and then we can do a comparison tomorrow after these are all fired. So I'm just gonna go wash this off in the sink and be right back for the third one. Okay, so we're on to the third one. So for this, what I'm going to be using is, this is Mica Stroking Coat. This is actually an underglaze that you can use in ceramics. I have used this before, not with a stencil, but I used it with a silk screen with sort of varying results. So I'm going to give it a try again with the stencil here. So the consistency of this is a little bit too runny. I think that was my problem on the last one, is that was just too thin, so it was seeping under here. So what you can do is mix this with cellulose gum. This is like I don't know, like some sort of baking. It says great for decorating. I don't really know. But I'm just gonna do the tiniest amount here, and this will just thicken this up a little bit. From when I used it last time, I recall that a little bit of this goes a very long way. So I'm just going to start with that and mix it up. Let's see how thick that already got. I'm wondering if I should add more of the underglaze. I think that's a good consistency. We're gonna try this. So I'm just gonna take a little bit on my finger here, and I'm gonna hold the stencil down. Oh boy, okay. Yeah, the stencil keeps lifting up. I have to be doing something wrong here. So this is opposite of some of the other ones I've demonstrated so far, where it seems that this material is working far better on the thin spaces, because it's like getting caught in there, and then it's not working so well on the larger, more coverage spaces. So that's interesting to note. I feel like I can't even really get it to cover this well. However, those small lines do look like they might turn out well. I think also if I were using like a larger piece of glass underneath, I could have maybe taped this down with some masking tape so that it wouldn't be lifting up so much. That's probably something I would do in the future, but these are just sort of experiments, testers, so I'm not terribly concerned with how they turn out. Yeah, I just can't get this to cover. You really need a we'll see. Okay, so we'll lift it up. Yeah, so that looks not bad. That looks not as terrible as the last one. Definitely looks nicer in the thinner areas rather than the full coverage areas down here, although that might still be a cool effect after it's fired, so we'll have to see. Let me just put this, just want to clean this up a tiny bit. Whatever. Okay, so I'm gonna call that good. Put that over here, and I'm gonna go wash this and be right back again. All right, so the last little test I'm gonna do here, I know it didn't work very well when I tried it before using the Perfect Medium stamp pad, but I'm gonna try it with mica powder, which is how I've used it before, and I'm hoping that this will work better than the enamel powder worked. I haven't done this technique with mica and the stamp pad, but I have used the mica with the stamp pad and actual stamps before. So let's see how this works. I'm going to attempt to do this again. Maybe change up my technique a little bit. Okay, I think I got everywhere. Take this off. So now I should have just a little oh my god, my brain is blanking. I should have just have the Perfect Medium stamped on there. I'm going to get a paintbrush, grab a little bit of the mica powder, and see how this worked. Not great. Okay. All right, let me try again. I'll be right back. Okay, let's give this another try. I think, I don't know. Okay. I'm gonna try to do this with my finger again. I think that's what ended up working best on the last one. You know, maybe if I had like one of those little like, do I have a little spongy paintbrush? No, I don't have one. I don't think this is gonna work. Best laid plans, right? Okay, new plan. I'm just going to use this to stamp all over this glass to make the whole thing a little bit sticky. Then I'm going to put the stencil down. There's a dog hair in there. Let me try to get that out. And now I'm gonna put the mica powder. Okay, now we're cooking with gas here. This seems to be working better. Just trying to fill in all these little spots here. The mica powder, you really don't need to use a thick layer, because the only part that's going to end up actually sticking to the glass is like the first layer that touches the glass. If you were to put like a big, you know, like really pack it on and put like a thick layer, all that excess mica that's not directly touching the glass is just going to wash off after it's fired. It's just going to fall right off. So you don't need to make, you know, a very thick layer of this, just a dusting. I'm just trying to make sure I've gotten all of those little nooks and crannies. Okay, so I think I've gotten everywhere. I'm gonna sweep off some of the excess to begin with. Moment of truth. Yes. Okay, that's what I was going for. So that looks a lot better. Just gonna wipe off some of the excess down here. I don't know if you can see it, but this glass had a bit of a texture to it. It's sort of a line, like a divot line running right here. So that affects down here, this little area, and up here as well. That's okay. I mean, if you were using a more smooth piece of glass, then that wouldn't be an issue. So that looks really good to me. I'm going to clean this off, and then I'll come back and bring all the I don't think that's really gonna be in here. I'm gonna show you all the samples side by side again. Alrighty, so I have my 4 little samples of my sun and moon hourglass design here. I think there's very clearly a loser. We'll see which one of these ends up being the winner. I think as of now, maybe it's just the color choices I use because this is such a contrast against the white. I think I'm rooting for the mica powder to look the best. But this color purple, the plum, should be pretty dark once it's fired. And then I'm not entirely sure about this. Blue Isle is the color I used for the underglaze. Oh, I guess I should tell you the colors for... So the mica powder, I used Pearl X pigments in Antique Copper. And then the stroke and coat was Blue Isle. And we don't need to talk about this one. And then again, this was the Plum Opal powdered Frit. So I'm gonna get these fired tonight. I'm gonna fire these to a tack fuse, and I will be back tomorrow with the finished results. See you then. Hi guys, welcome back. It is the following day. I have my fused fired projects here. Like I said, I fired them to a tack fuse. So now let's talk about the results. So of course, like I said earlier, we have a clear loser. This is the enamel powder mixed with the water medium. So you can see not great results, really blurred edges. I'm not sure that that technique can get the right consistency to go through the stencil material and not seep under the edges. I do, however, like how shiny it gets. So the enamel powder gets, you know, nice and shiny, almost looks like glass. So that is one positive for it. Next, I'll talk about the stroking coat. This is the ceramic underglaze. So this, while it looks better, this has like a crunchy, not shiny look to it. I don't know if it's picking up on camera, the texture of it, but it feels sort of like, you know, just sand or something. It's gritty. So I don't love that. If you were using this on a clear or translucent glass and fired it, you know, the other way, then at least the top side wouldn't have that. I'm pretty sure you could also cap this with clear, so maybe that's something I'll experiment with in the future. The results for the most part are pretty nice. It is a little bit patchy in those areas that are larger, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it does give kind of a cool effect, like in the middle of the sun here. It just gives it some dimension, so I don't hate that. Now we have the mica powder. Don't really have a lot of bad things to say about this. I think it worked out pretty well. Yeah, would definitely use that again. It has a bit of a texture. It's not as noticeable as this one, but it's not, you know, like shiny glass, but it does have that sparkle of the mica. So that's another good option to use with a stencil. And then I have to say, I think my favorite is the powdered Frit, which at the beginning of the experiment, I was not thinking that this was going to be my favorite. But I don't know why the moon is shaped weird. I guess that must have just been how I applied it. But the sun, like, look how clean those lines look. I think it looks really nice. So I think if I'm going to be using more stencils in the future, the powdered Frit is probably how I would go. Maybe the mica as well. It just depends, I think, on what you're using it for and what type of either stencil or silk screen that you're using, because like I said, I did this with a silk screen and it worked really nicely, whereas the powdered Frit did not work with the silk screen because the powder didn't fit through the holes of the screen. So I just think it depends on what you're using it for. I really enjoyed doing this experiment because it gave me the chance to make the stencil. Like I said, that's something I had never done before. And now I know that I can do it. And also now that I know sort of the limitations of the material, it's, you know, gives me some more ideas for projects in the future and how to utilize it in my work now. All right, so hope you guys liked this video. I hope you got some ideas of what to do and also what not to do with stencils when you're working with glass. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I do put out a new video every Friday, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.